My name is Nadia Okafor. I am 31 years old, and I work as a senior financial analyst for a consulting firm in Atlanta, Georgia. I have a good apartment, a reliable car, and a savings account that I built from nothing, which is the only way I know how to build anything, because the people who were supposed to give me a foundation decided, when I was 18 years old, that my future was less important than my brother's. I want to tell you what happened. All of it, in the right order, because the order matters. My parents, Joseph and Miriam Okafor, immigrated from Nigeria in the late 1980s and built a life in a mid-sized town in Ohio, through the kind of effort that does not ask for recognition and does not receive much of it either. My father drove a delivery truck for 11 years before buying a small grocery store with a business partner. My mother worked as a nursing assistant and later as a licensed practical nurse. They were disciplined people. They saved carefully. They believed in education the way people believe in something that has already saved them once. I believed it too. I was a good student, quietly competitive, the kind of child who made lists and checked things off them. By the time I was 16, I had researched 6 universities, understood the difference between financial aid and scholarships, and decided I wanted to study economics and go into finance. My parents told me they were proud. My father said he had been setting money aside for both me and my brother Daniel since we were small. Daniel is 3 years older than me. He is not a bad person. I want to be precise about that, because this story is not about hating my brother. It is about what my parents decided his future was worth compared to mine. Daniel had struggled academically since middle school, not from lack of intelligence, but from a combination of distraction, poor study habits, and a social life that he prioritized over almost everything else. He finished high school with average grades and no clear direction. He enrolled in a local community college at 19, lasted 1 semester, and came home. My parents did not seem alarmed by this. They said he needed time. He needed time for 2 years. When I was 17 and beginning to seriously prepare my university applications, my father sat me down one evening at the kitchen table and told me that the college fund, the one he had mentioned for years, the one I had factored into every plan I had made, had been used. Not entirely, he said. Mostly. He said Daniel had needed support, that the business had gone through a difficult period, that these things happened in families, and families handled them together. I asked how much was left. He told me. There was enough for 1 semester at a state school. Not the universities I had researched, not the program I had planned for. 1 semester. I asked why Daniel's 2 years of community college and general expenses had come from the fund that was supposed to be for both of us, and my father said something I have never forgotten. He said Daniel needed it more because Daniel was still finding his way, and that I was capable enough to find my own. He said it the way people say things they believe are compliments. He did not understand, in that moment or for a long time afterward, that what he had actually said was that my capability was the reason I deserved less. My mother said very little that evening. She looked at the table. I have thought about that a lot over the years. Her eyes on the table, the particular quality of her silence. I did not cry in front of them. I went to my room, sat on the edge of my bed, and remade every plan I had in my head from the beginning. I applied for every scholarship available to me. I applied for federal aid. I got a part-time job at a pharmacy the summer before university and saved every dollar. I enrolled at Ohio State, not my first choice but a good school, declared economics, and spent the next 4 years doing something I had not expected to do, which was proving to myself that I could do it entirely alone. I worked through university. Not occasionally, not for spending money, but consistently, seriously, sometimes 30 hours a week alongside a full course load. I graduated with honors and a debt figure I had already calculated a repayment plan for before I walked across the stage. My parents came to the graduation. My father took photographs. Daniel was there too, by that point managing a small section of my father's grocery store and doing reasonably well at it. Everyone was proud of me in the way people are proud of something they feel they contributed to, even when they did not. I moved to Atlanta for a graduate program and then for work. I called home on Sundays. I sent money occasionally when my parents mentioned something difficult, which I did without being asked because that is what I had been raised to do, and I had not yet fully examined the pattern. Over the next several years, I was promoted twice. I became good at my work in the way you become good at things when they are the primary thing you have. I paid off my student debt in 5 years instead of 10. I saved aggressively. I invested quietly. I did not talk about money with my family because money in my family had always been a conversation with an uneven floor. In the 7th year after graduation, my parents' situation changed. My father's business partner retired and the store's performance, which had been declining for several years, dropped significantly. My parents were in their early 60s by then, still working but beginning to think about what came next. The house in Ohio, the one I had grown up in, had been their primary asset for 30 years. They owned it outright, having paid off the mortgage a decade earlier. It was a 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing remarkable, but worth considerably more than they had paid for it, given how the area had developed. They began talking about downsizing. My mother mentioned it on a Sunday call in the spring, almost casually, the way she introduced things she had been thinking about for longer than she let on. She said they were considering selling and moving somewhere smaller, maybe closer to Daniel, who had by then married and relocated to Columbus. I asked what their timeline was. She said they were thinking about listing it by the end of the year. I said I would think about something and call her back. What I thought about, sitting in my apartment in Atlanta that Sunday evening, was the wire transfer I was capable of making. I had done the calculations before, not because I had planned this specifically, but because I am someone who knows their numbers. I knew what the house was worth within a reasonable range. I knew what I had. I knew what a fair offer looked like. I also thought about the kitchen table where my father had told me my capability was the reason I deserved less. I thought about the semester of funding that had been left for me after years of promises. I thought about the graduation photographs my father had taken, proud of an outcome he had not substantially helped to build. I called a real estate attorney in Ohio on Monday morning. I made an offer on the house 3 weeks later, through proper channels, at fair market value, not below it. I was not interested in taking something. I was interested in owning something. My parents did not know the buyer was me until the offer was formally submitted and my attorney disclosed my name. My mother called me that same evening. Her voice had a quality I had not heard before, something between surprise and something harder to name. She asked if I was serious. I said I was. She asked why I wanted the house. I said I was a property investor, among other things, and that the house was a sound purchase in a neighborhood with strong long-term value, which was true. There was a pause. Then she asked if this was about the college fund. I said it was about a fair transaction at market value, and that I hoped they would consider the offer on those terms. They did. My father called 2 days later. He said almost nothing about the money or the past. He said the offer was fair, and they were prepared to accept it. His voice was careful in the way voices become when people are navigating something they do not have language for. The sale completed on a Tuesday. The wire transfer cleared at 9:14 in the morning. I sat in my car outside the bank in Atlanta for approximately 10 minutes. I was not crying. I was thinking about the evening at the kitchen table, the way my father had framed my capability as a reason to give me less, the way my mother had looked at the table and said nothing. I thought about the pharmacy job and the scholarship applications and the 30-hour weeks and the debt I had paid off alone. Then I drove to my office and got on with the day. My parents moved to a smaller house in Columbus near Daniel. I hired a property management company to handle the Ohio house. I have no plans to live in it. It is rented to a young family, a couple in their early 30s with a daughter who has apparently claimed the backyard as her personal territory and can frequently be found there regardless of weather. They sent me a message through the property manager after their first winter there, saying the house felt solid and warm and thanking me for maintaining it well. I replied that I was glad and that they should let the management company know if anything needed attention. What I did not tell my parents, and what I have only told one other person, is that the purchase was not an act of revenge. I want to be clear about that because I have thought about it carefully, and I believe the distinction matters. Revenge is about making someone feel what you felt. And that was not what I was doing. What I was doing was completing a transaction that made sense. My parents had something of value. I had the means to pay fairly for it. The house now belongs to me the way my education belongs to me, earned, documented, and entirely mine. My relationship with my parents is not broken. It is honest in a way it was not before. My father has never directly acknowledged what he said at that kitchen table when I was 17. But something in the way he speaks to me has changed. There is a respect in it that was not always there. Whether that came from the sale or from the years of watching what I built, I cannot say exactly. Probably both. My mother called me last spring on a Sunday, as she does, and near the end of the call she said something she had not said before. She said she should have spoken up more when I was young. She did not elaborate. I did not push her to. Some things mean more when they are left at the exact size they were offered. Daniel and I get on fine. He runs the store now, his father having retired last year, and by all accounts he is doing well at it. He has never mentioned the college fund. I have never raised it with him directly. That chapter belongs to my parents, not to him. I am 31 years old. I own property in 2 states. I have a career I built from scholarship applications and pharmacy shifts and 30-hour university weeks and 7 years of disciplined saving. No one handed me the foundation, so I learned to pour my own. The house on Dalton Avenue in Ohio has a small garden that the current tenants have planted with vegetables along the back fence. The property manager sent me a photograph once. Not required, just a note that the family was caring for it well. I looked at the photograph for a moment and then filed it with the other property documents. It is a good house. It was always a good house. It just belongs to someone different now. Some things take exactly as long as they take, and not a day less.